Okay, hey everybody, this is Grace, and it's been a long time, I don't know how many, maybe over a month since I've been out here to make a video, or maybe less, I don't know. But I had pneumonia, got it from, apparently from when they were working on the sidewalks. Adam was working on the backyard with some of the dirt and all this stuff, and the city was working on the sidewalks and all that stuff in the air from it, and got pneumonia. And then I got over it like 10 days, so I was feeling so much better. They came back out and started working on one of the alleys. We don't have an alley on our part, but across from us does. And they started working on that. And I'm just now capable of basically walking out the door. It was hard for me to walk inside the house, and but I don't know if today was the best day. It's 91 degrees. It was so hot in here. It's 1:29 p.m. May 14th, but it was. I mean, I'm Texan. This is Texas, and the sun is bright and hot, man. But anyway, I came out here because I got upset. And, you know, I just heard this on some show, Veronica Mars. I'm watching that series. It kept popping up. I'm not a person to watch teen shows, really. I'm not a person to really watch TV until 2020 when I was stuck at home because I have a rare health condition. And, yeah, I was stuck at home in 2020 and part of 2021. And, you know, one of those more vulnerable people. And, started watching more TV, and this one just kept popping up on Netflix. It just kept popping up. I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And I like it. It's okay, but still, you know, they're in high school and then in college, and it's quite a long while for me on both of those. So, but I'm still watching. I want to see, you know, all of them. You know, once I start something, I usually finish at some point. And anyway, it on that show, there was just yesterday, I guess it was, there was an episode in that somebody was getting angry at a young woman, at her, I guess it was her friend and roommate, and her dad, being a preacher, said, you know, quoted from the Bible, I don't know the verse and all that, but you know, those quick to anger. And today I definitely felt quick to anger. Oh, because it's a repeated pattern with certain types of doctors. They just here that I've seen last year was horrible with this. They won't listen. They won't listen to no. No means no. I know I don't want to do that procedure, and this is one that's real expensive, and one of the doctors actually told me, well, you don't want to do that one. Okay, one actually said that because there could be so many complications. It's a procedure. And it was kind of said back then like a little bit of a threat. If I don't do this other one, then I'm going to have to do that one. You know, and I don't appreciate that. What really bothers me is these healthcare providers have gotten it all out of whack. Not all of them, but the ones who have it. They don't understand. The patient is not an employee that is to mind you. The patient is the employer. We're employing them to do a service for us. I mean, I know. Whoa, twisted, isn't it? Oh my goodness, and it does sound right. Because it is right. I'm a social and behavioral scientist. We employ these, you know, I don't want people, you know, people to listen to that and go, oh, I'm so arrogant, I'm going to go and tell my doctor that. No, that's not the point. The point is these doctors and providers, you know, doctors and whatever else, that treat us patients as if, you know, they have erected even the MAs, you know, people work in the office, they've erected some totem pole, and they put the patient not on the bottom of it, they put the patient underneath it. They think the patient is the lowest on the totem pole. You know, we use totem poles wrong, by the way. That's not how it really is. That the lowest person on the totem pole is the lowest person in the whole hierarchy. No, that's not how it actually is. But anyway, and no, I am not here just a blob with holding up a insurance card with dollar signs dangling off of it. You know, and if I don't want to do some test that could be risky to my health, I don't want to do it. Plus, they had this thing. It was so unbelievably bossy that said that they will charge $300 fee if the person is late or is a no-show. I mean, I could be wrong, but last I heard, any kind of fees like that, you know, or it's a no-no. Last I heard, and I could be wrong, but it's a no-no. You don't get to charge somebody because they don't show up. And it was a list of 2 different things. They charge you for. I'm like, you're too freaking arrogant. Oh my goodness. And the weird thing is, this doctor's new. The doctor I went back to her because I'd asked a doctor, my doctor's office, my PCP. I like him. I asked his nurse, but went to his nurse. I don't think I sent it to his nurse. I think it got sent to his nurse through the portal. And, you know, how, at the time I thought I might have I had never, as far as I know, ever had a bladder infection or anything like that. I never had a UTI. Okay, I didn't even know that it was bladder, kidney, whatever. I didn't know what a UTI was. And, you know, I had been on and off all this medication, so I wanted to see what was going on with me. It wasn't anything really bad. I just wanted to see. And I went to an urgent care, and the woman, it got messed up somehow. She was not normal. I'm going to say that. She was a PA, I believe, and physician's assistant. And first I went to an urgent care, and she diagnosed it, but she said I need to see my doctor. But then she sent 2 prescriptions, not 1, but 2, and one had 5. It was an antibiotic, 5 pills for 5 days. It was 10 pills. The other one was for 7 days, and she sent them to Florida. And this is Texas, and I had to wait for them to get back. You know, they had to call Florida and all this stuff to get, you know, so that they could cancel it, and it was a mess. And all because what was her head? You know, she knows here this is Texas. But then I asked, you know, my doctor's office. You know, I said through the portal, I want everything in writing. Oh, I want everything in writing. After last year, oh my gosh, it was unbelievable. And so I sent it through the portal and asked the nurse, you know, which, like I said, it wound up being the nurse, how many visits will it take for me to find out if I have a UTI or something else? And she wrote back that she didn't think it was appropriate to make a statement through the portal. Yeah, you get it, right? The answer is 1. 1. Okay. My doctor's office. I went back to another doctor that I had in 2024, and when I was in the hospital that one night, a nurse there, she suggested I go to the male doctor. This is a female, and you know, she was my PCP, and so that nurse suggested I go see this other doctor. She's around my age. This other doctor, and I was thinking, okay, I'm in the hospital. She's suggesting I go see him for a reason, you know, like there's something other. And it was middle of the night, and she was a night shift nurse, and I was real tired and real sleepy. By then I hadn't slept, so on and so forth. So I didn't ask why. You know, I was just too tired. Or maybe I did ask why, and I was just too tired to remember. But anyway, this was back in 2024. Well, I was seeing this she's female doctor at the time, and so I started seeing this male doctor. I liked him, so I just canceled that appointment, and it was going through that way. But then when his nurse told me that she didn't think it was appropriate to say through the portal, she could have listed, she could have taken the time and said something like, well, first we're going to do this, do a urine test. Then then, like that. No, because you got to commit. And they're notorious that any doctors through that one system, that one, like I have one portal for that whole system, the doctors through that. Any of them, they do this thing. There's an appointment, an initial visit. Then there is a blood test. The PCP, they have the blood test done there, but other ones you have to make an appointment. Just 2 appointments. And then there's a follow-up, a 3rd appointment. And a follow-up is supposed to be free, used to be. There's no charge, but now they charge. So there's 3 appointments. Okay, each of them cost money. All right? And 3 appointments for one thing. I go to back to this other doctor, the female one. 1 visit, and that was done. 1 visit. 1 visit. Actually, I think something had happened. I don't know. There was a test that didn't get on, and I did have to go back and have, because I had the test done then. There was something that didn't make it, and I had to go, to the lab, and I had to go back and take that. But overall, but there was some for other stuff. Overall, it was much easier. They don't want these appointments will follow up right away. It's a money-making scheme, the way some of these doctors act. Now, that's a PCP. This other one is a specialist. And then I saw 3 of their specialists, and oh my goodness, through the system. Oh, no. That's why I wanted one outside of it. And so that doctor, the female doctor, she's not part of their system. She's in network, but not part of she's not, a partner and employee and a partner. So, she suggested I see this doctor, this specialist. And I looked him up, read his reviews, and he was saying, he looks like, probably in his 50s and kind of a goofy guy, funny, goofy, from the picture. I know better than to pay attention to just profile pictures, But I read the reviews, and I believe any that are negative. I do believe them. Now, the ones that are all positive, I don't believe. And a lot of people do it the other way around. I don't. I'm a social and behavioral scientist. Plus, I've had experience with some of these doctors. Some of them I looked it up afterwards. And I believe them. When it's negative, I believe it. I really do. Because some of these doctors, okay, now this one, to get back to, he's like in his 50s, a specialist. And right off the bat, his nurse spent the time with us. She says she does, she's probably in her 50s. And she says that, she does all the intake, and she gets all the information and gives all the information. And she said he comes in and saves the day. Something like, saves the day and to the rescue and all this. I thought that's kind of weird. And, but I mean, in a way, I've seen this before. But he came in and like this, he looked like his profile picture, but he looked also like someone had, the way he was dressed was kind of like he was showing off his strength, kind of body built, in his 50s. And he was very gruff. I guess that's the word, gruff. and like that. Like he was in charge. No, you're not in charge. I am. And I know that sounds bad. I know it sounds like I'm arrogant, and I wouldn't suggest it to anybody else, but you're not in my situation with these doctors. And hearing this bull crap for years now. Okay, they will not say through the portal in writing why it is medically necessary at this time that I do these procedures. No, they're not going to do that. Okay, because they can get in a lot of trouble. And their actual the system itself, the ones that were in that one system, they had contacted me. It was a really weird situation. I had called. I was real sick that time, and I had called, and somebody transferred me to, said, you need to speak to this woman, and I was real ill, so I didn't write everything down, get her name and all, what department, but she told me that my doctors are doing stuff wrong. And she told me basically that they could get in a lot of trouble for the way that they were doing tests. You know, these tests and everything on me. And I explained to her that they would have these follow-up visits, but yet they wouldn't follow up. They wouldn't explain all the tests, the results, nothing. They would just talk about, well, they're going to do more tests. And like I said, I was very ill, and my filter was broken at the time. I needed a replacement filter. but I just let it all out. And then they started, another one called and told me that I should just mention it to my doctors what they're doing. And I was livid. It was back last year. I don't work for them. I'm not an employee. They should be doing their job and telling these providers, look, this is what you're doing wrong. They're running so many tests. And that's what they were doing, was they were running the same test and not checking that others had already done those tests. And like I've heard from these doctors' offices that they want their own procedures. They want their own procedure tests done. I'm not talking about blood tests on this part. Their procedures. They want their own test results from their procedures. They don't want somebody else's. No, that's not how it works. So, wasting my time. I just had one 6 months ago for a CT. Let's say like a CT. 6 months ago, and they want to do another one because they don't want that person's. They want their own. Hello. You see what I'm saying? I do not appreciate that at all. Okay, but it's wasted my time because they want to make money. Now this one is one of those tests, and Adam was with me, and he really ticked me off because I had heard from one of these doctors that you don't want to do that test, that procedure. And Adam was with me, and he said, I did it. And I felt like I was totally brushed off. And so I wrote that after this call that came today. They want to schedule that. And I had told them in the doctor's only one and only time I saw this new doctor, the specialist, that was not within their system. And that would be the fourth one that I've seen, as for, because it's the same BS. They want to run all these procedures. Now, I had been in the hospital for this, and you would think if I'm in the hospital, the ER, they would say, we need to keep you and do these other tests. They're not saying it. They're not suggesting it. They're not even suggesting that I do all those tests. So these doctors who have their own practices, they suddenly need those. It's a bunch of BS. That's how I feel about it. I could be, this is mine. You don't know my whole situation. And I'm not saying it would be yours. I'm saying it's mine. I'm social and behavioral sciences. I'm paying attention to the way they're behaving. All the while they're talking about this stuff and how their eyes light up when they find out, I had a doctor's eyes got so big, bulging, when he found out I had insurance. Oh, we're going to run some more tests. It was so disgusting. It was seriously disgusting. And I'm not new to this planet, so I knew this kind of stuff happened, but The amount of it, seeing it, oh, especially like I said last year, oh, especially. And all the times they called and rescheduled and, you know, said that the doctor said, you know, called, office called and said, the doctor said, you know, they won't be there that day and I need to reschedule. I had to, finally I asked, do they put in there that the doctor is the one who canceled the appointment and had to reschedule? They said, no, there's no option for that. I said, so all these show up that I'm rescheduling. Yes, exactly. One of them said, well, we do have to write in there why we called you. Because, see, somebody had actually that was in there said, right at the beginning, sort of getting into that system, and she called, you know, she talked to me, she said, well, you rescheduled twice already. I said, I'm not rescheduled at all. She was chastising me. So I want to know, did she go to the provider who rescheduled and chastise them? I am not an employee. I am not there to mind them. I am the employer. Every patient is employing them to do a job, like I said from the beginning. And they just take it, everything is just wiped right off because they've erected the totem pole and the patient is underneath it. And they see it, the patient needs to know that. And I can tell you that this doctor's office is not going to take me saying that I want it through the portal while it's medically necessary. They're not going to respond. They wouldn't even respond. These other ones would not even respond to that in person. Verbally, in person, not in writing, in person, verbally. Nope, they're not going to say. They know that it's not. They know they just want it. They just want those tests done. They just want those procedures done. They want to make that money. You know, one of them even said, oh, I'm going to get my friend to do this. I'm not here for them to make buddy friends and, you know, get them to make the money for their offices and all that stuff. No, that's not how it works in my world. Not in theirs, but it doesn't in mine. And I do know that this is, like I said, that one, the places that were called, that, you know, spoke to me about the doctors are doing wrong, they're not located here. They're located in another part of Texas. And that other part of Texas is not like it is here. They are quite shocked by what happens here. Like I said, my filter was broken. I just let it all out. Yeah, so wrapping it up.